All right, here we go with the Face in Peril, our weekly SmackDown review, at least this week. Um, so Jimmy Uso opens the show with a promo. He just returned to the last pay per view, so here he is to explain his absence, I guess. The new bloodline shows up pretty quickly before he says much of anything. Roman then shows up. He runs them off and he joins Jimmy in the ring. They have a bit of a conversation. Jimmy insinuates that it might be time to reconcile with Jay, and Roman acts apprehensive about that. Commercial break. We come back. We've got a U.S. title match with LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes. It's a decent match. LA Knight goes over after a reversal into a blunt force trauma. During the match, Andrade showed up and he's making fun of Carmelo and like distracting him. And then at the end of the match, after Carmelo's lost, Andrade's standing outside the ring making fun of him for being a loser. After that, we're going to another match, but Kevin Owens interrupts the entrance and he comes out and he's complaining about Cody Rhodes. Then Randy Orton shows up and he's trying to play peacemaker. There's some referees and stuff show up and they're trying to get Kevin Owens out of there. He's fighting them off. Orton comes up behind him to try to calm him down and he elbows Orton in the head, at which point Orton lays him out. So Orton attacks him, lays him out. It looks like, Kevin Owens is mad at everybody. Then they go to another break. Yeah. Then they go to another break. And the previous match that was starting the entrance was for a women's tag team match. Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson are whose entrance was interrupted. They are in the ring at this point, and now Jade and Bianca are coming out with the titles. Jade and Bianca won in what was basically like a 2 or 3 minute squash match. It really wasn't anything to write home about. Then Nia Jax came out for a promo for a redacted event that we won't talk about. And she was interrupted by Naomi, who wanted a match. They went to commercial then, and when they come back from commercial, the match was already in progress. So it's Naomi versus Nia. Liv Morgan and Judgment Day are ringside. There's a few other people ringside kind of watching the match. And Tiffany Stratton's there, of course, because she's with Nia. Raquel, who's with Judgment Day now, takes the briefcase from Tiffany and she uses it on Nia. And then Naomi uses that, Nia being dazed from being hit with the case, to power bomb Nia, which is crazy. Like Naomi power bombed Nia and picked up the win. So Naomi now has a pinfall win over the champion, where Bayley has failed twice in the last 2 consecutive matches. So this is building an interesting dynamic between these friends. Afterwards, Liv and Raquel are kind of just laughing, and then Rhea just kind of shows up out of nowhere, and she doesn't just take Liv and Raquel to the house, she takes everybody to the house. Like, she is out to, after her loss at the pay-per-view, she is out to beat everybody up. And she basically did beat everybody up that was present. So
why were they there on SmackDown though? Half of these women are Raw women, right?
don't know, man. Don't know. Yeah, Judgment Day's a Raw act, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Judgment Day's a Raw. I don't know. Maybe the only thing I can think is Raquel, and the Raquel and Tiffany interaction makes me think maybe Raquel is still actually a SmackDown roster. I'm not sure. I'd have to maybe go look at the rosters and see if Raquel's still under SmackDown.
Yeah.
But maybe she's gonna try to take the briefcase away from Tiffany in a more literal sense than taking it away from her during this match. Then we came back, and then after that, we go to another commercial break. We come back, and they're outside the arena, and Owens is beating up Orton outside the arena. Not a whole lot of context to it, just kind of a fight scene outside. And then they come back into the arena, and the Bloodline is entering for a Jimmy Uso versus Solo Sikoa match. This is our main event of the night. Solo beat Jimmy after Bloodline interference. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to say that in my fandom of wrestling. Like, someone defeated somebody because the Bloodline interfered. This is like every Bloodline match. we'll talk about it more here in just a second. But the bloodline attack, when the match is over, the bloodline attack, Jimmy Reigns comes in to make the save. But the numbers game is too much for them, even though they have like hundreds of allies. The numbers game becomes too much. No one shows up, and Reigns and Uso are left laying as the show ends. Things I liked about this. I really liked Naomi getting a win over Nia. I liked the power bomb. I thought that was cool, man. I really liked it.
I know.
Uh,
The idea of anybody power bombing Nia Jax is like, holy cow, that's a lot of woman. Like,
yeah,
and
on
I
a
mean
woman.
that respectfully. That
Oh yeah,
that works to her favor. But like, uh, I don't think it's insulting to assume that nobody could have done it in the women's division anyway. Like,
right.
that's impressive.
It is pretty impressive, especially considering the size disparity between the two of them.
Yeah.
Um, it's almost a Hogan and Andre level size disparity, like just with the
Yeah.
two. I mean, they're not as big as either of those people, but the difference between them two is pretty much spot on with
Proportional.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Naomi's doing the the promo and tell her she wants a match with her, and she's like, "Don't look down at me when I'm talking up at you." And I mean, they're like showing them at profile, and she's literally looking up, and
Hmm.
Naya's looking down at her. So there's
Yeah.
the legitimate size disparity there. But yeah, I mean, the match was good. I had the same kind of question as you, kind of, where I'm not sure what Judgment Day and all those people are doing there. Like, I don't get it. I guess we'll find out. Maybe they want Raquel to have the SmackDown Women's Championship so they can really have all the gold, even though they don't have any world titles except the women's titles. Like, they don't have any men's world titles. They don't have any. They don't even. I mean, they have like
The
are the
tag
tag.
belts, right?
I mean, they do have the tag belts, but are they even considered a mid card title at this point?
They say worlds on them.
They say we're okay, so I guess they do have a world championship, but it's two guys who share them, and one of them's a bobblehead.
Yeah.
I'm never going to talk nice about JD McDonough. Sorry, guys. I know this is the positive podcast, but
I mean,
yeah,
honestly, I liked his work as Jordan Devlin in the on the UK brand. Like, yeah, he has a unique, weird look, but like honestly, I thought he could go in the
I
ring.
didn't say I wasn't going to. I was going to talk bad about Jordan Devlin because I won't, but I don't like JD McDonough.
Okay,
Yeah, so you see what
that's
I mean
fair.
there. That's fair. Anyway, so another thing I liked that Jimmy is breaking ground on reconciling with Jay. I know we just put the Intercontinental Championship on Jay, but let's be honest here. If we want the World Tag Team Championships on either brand to mean anything, there need to be good people holding them and good people fighting for them. And it's something I feel like WWE is sorely lacking in recent times. And the Usos are, if not the best, one of the best tag teams on the planet. They are very
Oh,
good.
they're certainly in the conversation.
Oh yeah, yeah. They're on the Mount Rushmore, which means they're in the top four of tag teams as far as 2000 to now.
Oh yeah,
If we went all time, they might just squeak off of it. But I mean, they're twins, of course. So,
yeah,
but they're one of the most proficient and well-oiled tag teams that exist today, and I'm sure it would go right back to being that if they went back together.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, there's a reason that they kept going back to the well with them in the New Day
yeah,
for
yeah.
literal years.
As far as what I didn't like, um, I don't know what they're doing with Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, but I feel like they should be making a bigger deal of them than just letting them get squashed. And the reason I say that is because one, they very obviously both have it. Whatever that unquantifiable it is, they have it. But also, why are we squashing any women's tag teams at all? There are only like four of them. I mean, there's more now than there were a couple years ago when I started making that joke, but it's still literally only like
Just
seven,
barely,
like maybe seven,
right?
and there's two brands with two. There's not two distinct titles, but there is two brands, and they do split the women up between the brands, including the tag teams, and so I
I
mean,
mean, for that, I would argue it's three because don't they defend on NXT as well?
occasionally, yeah, they do defend on NXT, and I mean, but the craziest part about it to me is like they had a PLE just now, and Bianca and Jade were hosts, not competitors.
And
With
I
Naomi,
always
who was
thought it was
also a
kind of
host and
silly to
not a
have a
competitor.
host anyway.
I do.
Like unless they're going to be actively involved in the proceedings, if they're a host presents things.
Yeah,
To
they
have a
weren't really
host just
presenting
saying,
anything.
"Oh, welcome to the show," and then to
Yeah.
have them faff off for the rest of the show, it doesn't mean anything.
Well, they did like a mid-show angle with it, not an angle, but like a mid-show check-in with them. But they were just in the VIP lounge where all like the super rich, famous people who were at the show were hanging out, and that was all they
Mm.
like. They were just name dropping, like, "Hey, look who's here! This person and this person." It wasn't really anything of substance. But that being said, there's only like 7 tag teams or 8 tag teams, and y'all are squashing one when you should be building up a division. I don't think a squash match should be happening in women's tag title
Yeah,
matches
if you need
right
a
now.
squash match, just get 2 local people.
Yeah,
Let's just do
especially if
it.
it's going to be a tag title match and not just a non-title match. Like
Yeah,
if the titles are going to be on the line, why did these people get why did they get an opportunity if they're just going to get beaten 2 minutes?
yeah.
And especially these two who are, I haven't seen them on TV ever. I don't know. I don't really know who these two ladies are.
Me neither.
I'm sure they're a tag team that's come up from NXT, but I'm also sure that after watching them that they have it. They have the it thing that WWE looks for in like the WWE style of it, because
Yeah,
each company has their own it, what they would consider
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so the
It's a
WWE it,
subjective. Yeah.
I haven't seen these ladies go a 30-minute Iron Man match, so I couldn't tell you if they belong where the best wrestle, but they sure as heck belong in WWE. So I just don't like when you got titles on the line, squash matches are dumb. I don't like that at all. Um, what another thing I liked, I liked LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes. To be honest, it was easily the most technically proficient and entertaining match on the show. I mean, there was other matches that entertained me, but they had like storyline beats or something in there that made them entertaining. There is matches I didn't like or I didn't really like, but LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes, for as short as it was, because all matches on SmackDown seem to be short these days, um, it was still really good. And the reversal into the BFT, it was kind of I can't remember exactly what move Carmelo was going for, but it was a reversal into a BFT that I hadn't seen before, which, like I said last time, if I haven't seen it before, I always pop for it, and that's super cool,
Yeah.
and I love that. So, really, I think my biggest question that I have coming out of the show is why was the Judgment Day there? Everything else is just kind of tracking with what's going on already. LA Knight, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade have been in this weird like love triangle over the U.S. title. Even though it hasn't changed hands at all, it's always been LA Knight. But they've had this weird love triangle going on. Um, Honestly, I will take the three of them fighting over the U.S. title for the rest of eternity if I never see Logan Paul again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean,
That guy
people.
is.
I know there's going to be some real wrestling fans in our comments or in our Twitter or whatever being like, "But Logan Paul's a proficient wrestler." He is. I agree with you. I even agree that the heat that he carries with him makes him a good heel character. I will agree with that too. But there's one thing I won't talk about because of my personal moral issues with it. And then there's Logan Paul, who, after this segment, you may never hear me talk about again because he scammed a bunch of people, his own fans, out of millions of dollars, and he's unapologetic and he hasn't paid them back. And until he does, he can beat feet.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
not
all I'll say.
even. That's not even bringing up like the stuff in Japan
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that. Like
that's not even bringing up everything. That's just
the
like
dude is legitimately a bad person. He and his
yeah,
brother are bad
are bad
people,
people.
and they are uh, very easily proven to be bad people.
Yeah.
So, and I know that wrestling is full of scumbags.
Mhm.
Like it's notable when somebody isn't a scumbag in
Yeah,
wrestling.
yeah,
But this was somebody who they hired for his audience, knowing full well of crappy things that he had done
Mm-hmm.
prior to them hiring him.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure
I
the
will,
CoffeeZilla thing came out before he got signed.
yeah, I think it did too. I'm not positive. Don't quote me on that,
I
but
think it did.
I think it did. And I mean, I've seen clips of the guy. Like he is, yeah, he may be incredibly gifted. Like his brother is at boxing. His brother is from. I mean, I don't know a lot about boxing, but like he was still getting wins.
I
Like
don't think
they're
he's going to be a
both.
boxer much longer after next month when Mike Tyson starches him out. But
I mean, that depends on if he makes it to the match. Like he's already backed out once.
that's true.
So, that being said, like these guys do seem to be very athletically gifted. Both are absolutely tremendous performers with a knack for getting attention for themselves.
Yeah.
Um, so I understand to a degree why WWE would be interested in a performer like that. I don't believe it to be worth the baggage that he brings.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think there is a certain amount of bad will that comes with signing a Logan
Yeah,
Paul or somebody similar like that. Like
yeah.
it's kind of like Stephanie on the recent Vince documentary. I don't know if you've watched that Vince documentary yet.
I've only watched like the first. I haven't. I have 2 episodes left.
You've watched all the good parts then. But that there's a part in it where Stephanie's like, "Oh, we hired Mike Tyson before the rape thing happened,"
Yeah,
and
and then they corrected
they're
her. She's
like,
like,
"No, you
"Oh,
didn't." She's like,
really?
"Oh, really?
Oh,
Oh, really? Really?"
yeah,
This is where when our phantom producer, who we'll thank here in a minute, when he says we should put like sound bites and stuff in, that's where I put Cleveland Brown going, really?
yeah,
Like,
really?
really? But yeah, so it's a lot like that. Like you kind of y'all knew this guy was a scumbag and you hired him anyway, and not and not only that, but he hasn't used any of the goodwill that your company has or any of the PR that like he really should at least hook up with the WWE PR department and try to clean up his image in the way that WWE has done since separating from the reason they had a bad image in the first place.
Yeah.
Because they have built themselves up a lot of goodwill in the separation period.
Although if we're gonna go there, we also have to go and recognize that Hunter isn't good at that,
No, no,
like at
no. He
all.
shouldn't be talking about any
Why
of that
is
at
he
press
talking to
conference.
the press? He's terrible at talking to the press.
No, no. Hunter's a great
Awful.
promo, but he's terrible at talking to the press, man,
I
and he
would
shouldn't
argue
be.
that he's a passable promo as long as he keeps it at 5 minutes. And anything after that, it's just him. It's just a, a masturbatory exercise
I think pretty much
because
most of his promos, especially
because
during the the DX era, were masturbatory.
well, I mean obviously I mean that in a figurative way. This is the guy
Yeah.
that who famously in the last year says, "Oh, it's not about me," and then he comes out almost every PLE to
Well,
soak in the cheers of the crowd. Like, yeah, it's not about
hold
you.
on. Okay, okay, okay.
Whatever,
He can say
whatever.
he can say all day it's not about him, but we are absolutely 100% in the named either depending on how you want to call it. We're either in the Triple H or the Paul Levesque era of WWE. To the point where like, dude, did you know that like I never saw a producer's name on WWE credits ever except for K Fame. That's the
Yeah,
only producer. It says
you
Paul
would
Levesque now.
in the you would never see that ever on Raw or SmackDown or any of their TV shows. Certain uh, cable providers, pay per view providers would mandate that
Mhm.
you credit all the tech people, including the producers, but you would always see at the very, 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 very end, and it'd be tiny, so nobody could reasonably be expected to read that. And remember, most of these two were back in the days before internet was a huge thing too. So you weren't getting screen caps of it and getting blown up and like, oh, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? No, and I remember because WCW had to do it too on
Mhm.
their pay-per-views. So like, it was there. It was mandated depending on their carrier. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Like, I don't think they used real names
No, it was always
unless they had
kayfabe.
to, and they certainly didn't make it easy for you to spot who was who.
No,
So
no, never. But yeah, now it just says Paul Levesque, and everybody knows who Paul Levesque is. So,
yeah,
well, at
yeah,
least
he definitely
learned
wants
fans.
credit. Like it's not
Yeah,
about him. Oh, it's not
yeah.
about me.
I mean,
It's not about me, guys.
I could
It's
say
about
like,
the young talent. Yeah,
yeah,
whatever
this
knows.
is about the
Whatever.
young talent, but I'm booking it. So yeah, appreciate me. I mean, I'm kind of with him on that one. Like, if I was him, as long as he's been in the business and now he's at the top of the company, he's controlling the creative and it's doing well. Like, yeah, I'd kind of bask in a little bit too. I'm not gonna lie. I can't hate.
Nah,
I can't
that's
hate him for it. I can't. I just,
see, that's
because
you and I disagree on that. Like we're gonna have to agree to disagree
we
on
can
that.
disagree on that. That's fine.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
and, that's something that we should, I know that this is getting tangential here, but I feel like we we should leave this in because
mhm,
this is again a positive podcast.
right.
We just had a conversation totally unscripted, totally unplanned, where we agreed to disagree. We didn't get in each other's faces. We didn't call each other a bunch of names. We didn't insult our families or friends or whatever. We didn't, dox each other and send death threats in our DMs. We had a conversation with a difference of opinion, and it's fine.
Perfectly fine.
So, to wrestling fandom at large out there who likes to go and pick fights on the internet. And I
Oh
know
God.
it's not everybody who watches wrestling, it's a very loud minority of trolls, but I'm talking directly to you. You can chill, right? It's not that serious, right? We can all we all love the same thing. So why are you so angry? Why? It doesn't have to be this way, man. And
Not
I
at all.
know it's man. It's not woman.
No.
It's man.
Yeah.
Okay? It's okay. People love you. We love you. Now stop being jerks.
Right. But yeah, well, but you know what? We agreed to disagree, and that's as strong as something can get, especially between two friends. And that leads us to a hot tag.